This is a little hedgehog by Penny Black, and we're going to start with one of the easy parts. We're going to start with a ribbon that's around the cake. So we're going to make a red ribbon, and what we're going to do is start with putting just the base color down, and you can make it obviously whatever color you choose, as long as you have a darker colored Copic or a color that you can use for a shadow around the edges of it. Typically shadows come around the bottoms of an image, of a piece of an image, or around the edges of it. And on this particular image, I would guess the shadows would be best around the sides of the image that way, and you can add a little bit as well, right where the bow meets the rest of the cake. And to smooth those transitions out, you can take your base color again and blend them. And we're going to do a blue apron with white stripes. That's how it's colored on the image on the stamp. So we're going to stick with that for this particular tutorial so you can see how that's going to look. And with Copics, you can see that as long as you add enough color and your markers are charged up well enough, you don't really have to worry about streaking particularly. Just scrunch the marker around and make sure you get enough of the ink onto the paper. With Copics, the idea is to actually really saturate the paper as best you can, because that's how the colors are going to blend once that paper is fully saturated. So you do want to have the ability to see the image come through the paper when you turn it over on the back. I used to think that that was a bad thing, but apparently that's a good thing. And that's what they told me at the Copic Marker certification class. So I put down a base color, and then I look for where the shadows are going to be. And since this is all about shading, look at the fabric on your sleeve. And you can sort of see there's dark places, and those are usually where the folds are. And right here on this stamp, they've drawn in a fold across the front of this this apron. There's another fold here, and it would normally continue over here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of color where that fold would continue. Don't have to stay exactly with what the stamp has on it. And adding darker blues in the places where I want to have my shadows. Now this corner here is underneath. You're seeing the back side of it, and the back side of things tends to have a shadow. And the bottoms of most things will have some sort of a shadow. Typically, not in all cases, but so I'm adding a little bit of shadow around the edges of the bottom. And then I'm going to take the marker that I used initially and color over it a little bit more. And basically I'm dragging the darker color up into the other area so that I'm getting kind of a third color without having a third marker. When I first started buying my Copics, I tried buying them in threes so I'd have the middle tone. But then I realized that they blend well enough. You can have a dark and a light and blend them into each other without actually having to have that extra marker color. And that's a really cool feature with Copics. And all I'm doing is just adding a little bit of color from the other marker to it. I'm not going crazy with it. Now with Hedgies, what I like to do is use the warm gray dark colors. So they are the W7, W5, W3. I go 1, 3, 5, 7 when I bought mine because I don't need the ones in between. But these tend to look a little warmer than the regular gray markers, so I tend to like them better. And I do a lot of house mouse images and Hedgies and all sorts of fun things with real life fur, so I kind of like to have a selection of colors available. So this is the warm gray 7, and what I'm doing is adding a few dark spots where the shadows would be. And again, if you look at the fabric on your own sleeve or on your hand, you'll see the places where it gets darker around one edge. So what I'm going to do here, I use the number 7, and then this is the number 1, because I want to see what the difference is between the two, and do I need a third color in between them. So I'm starting out by just coloring over top of the color that I've already put down and squishing it around. And you can see that it really does give a little bit of depth to it, even though I haven't really gone crazy with multiple layers of different colors of the warm gray. I think I might add a little bit more of one of the intermediate ones, probably a number 5, just to give myself a little bit more transition and make him look a little bit more cuddly. And so I'm drawing in basically just a few more extra hairs that gives his fur a little more detail than what he's even given in the stamp. So I'm just drawing little lines in there, but I'm barely touching the marker, the tip of the marker, to the paper, because you can see these are very thick tips, so they're not very, very fine for little detail. But if you touch them very, very lightly to the paper, they actually do come out pretty light, and you can get a very fine line like this. Next we will work on the flesh of this little guy. I'm using a E000, which is a, what is it called, pale fruit pink, and I'm basically letting his skin start out from where the fur ends, and I'm coloring over the hands, even though I'm going to do something different with the hands, and I want his face to have color on it. However, I like having a big old white tummy. I think that's a really fun little contrast to everything else. So I'm just letting the color sort of bleed out as it gets toward his tummy, but I'm filling in the rest of the color. So those are solid areas full of ink, and the more ink you get in there, the easier it's going to be to blend. So give yourself plenty of juice in there. And you can use other colors for this base coat as well. I just happen to like this E000. This is also a sketch marker as opposed to a ciao, which are the other ones that I use, and tends to be a little bit, they have a few more colors in the sketch markers than they do in the ciaos. So now I'm taking a milky white color, it's a little bit darker, and I'm adding a little bit more right where the hands are, and the hands go, because I want to blend into more of a fleshy color when we get to actually coloring the pink into the hands. And I want a little bit more shadow around the edges of him. But you see I'm putting the shadow here and not right here. I'm letting this area be light. I might add a little bit more here, but I can also bring a little bit more of this warm color into portions of the fur. That also ties the image together when you have different spots of other colors. And now for adding the pink, because his flesh is a little bit pinker, or at least I want it to be pinker. So then I just add a little bit, and I'm just touching the edge of it, and as I drag the marker down, I'm lifting up. So I'm getting just, you know, a little bit of color, and then it's fading out. I don't even have to blend it because I'm putting just such a light touch on it as you just touch the marker down and lift it up as you drag it. Now this is, I want to give him a little pink cheek, but that is obviously too dark of a color for a pink cheek. So I go back to then my pale fruit pink, the E000, and I just color around it. And as it dries, it all blends together, and he has a little pinker cheek than he did, which is kind of cool. Now if he gets too pink, his hands might be a little bit too cheeky. I might go over them just a little bit more with another little dab of the milky white, or you can even do a raw silk color added onto it too, just to warm that color up and make it a little yummier. Okie doke, there you go.